Okay. So for this, I'm just going to go ahead and create a new component and just call this like size.js. Let's do window size. Okay, so import. Now I am going to maybe want use state and use effect for this. React. And then I'm going to do a const.
You're not sharing your screen.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay. It's probably fun to watch, just me talking. All right, window size. All right, this is just going to be a React component. Return. Let's do my div. Window size. So I'm going to, set up my state. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create what I will eventually want to like store my window size. And then set window size. It's going to be equal to my use state hook. So I'm expecting this, like I want this to be an object, and it's going to have width, whatever, 100, and height. I'm hard coding this for now. I'm actually going to want to like grab these values. Let's make that lowercase window. Because maybe what I want to have is I want to have a div that has some style. Let's do width. This is going to be my window size.width. And my height can be my window size lowercase dot height. It's going to get messy pretty soon, but I'll just throw these in new lines. And then let's do a border so we can see this. Pixel solid black. And let's just also give this some margin so it's like maybe not right up against stuff. Why do I keep on doing that? What am I doing with that connection? Okay. So let's see, with any luck, I'm going to have this window size. I'm going to have a div that has a black border that's 100 by 100 pixels. I might need to like format this to say like 100. Add a string, maybe. I'm going to want to change this eventually, but let's see if we can get that working. And then I can do const for export default window size. Okay, so my app.js. Let's do this right here. Window size component. Let's get that rendering. When I never created this repo. Since I'm right here. I'll set that up there. Okay. So let's go here. Let's go to my React app. Oh, sweet. There's my there's my black box. It's 100 by 100. Cool. Let's maybe Can I like center that? Doing like auto. Okay, sweet. So now it's centered. Lovely, lovely box. Okay. So the next thing I want to do is actually grab my window height, like grab the dimensions. So one way I could do this is like on mount. So I want to do a mount. So on mount, I want to grab the size of my window. So I'm going to use my use effect. And what I'm going to do here is there is a window object in JavaScript. So this is how I can like get my window of the browser, and I can do a add event listener resize. So what I'm saying is, hey, on that window, add a event listener that I'm calling resize, which this needs to like be spelled right, because the window knows about this resize event listener. And then I can give this a callback function to be called when the window is resized. So let's see if this works. Let's do this window resized. So when this component mounts, I'm going to add a event listener to say, hey, listen for this, listen to be when if your size changes. So now when I resize my window, it's logging that window resized. And also it's logging it a lot because I don't have that dependency array. So let's throw that on there. So it just adds it once. Actually, that's not changing any state though. That shouldn't maybe affect that. Okay, so I refresh. So now when I resize my window, I get that log. It's like, hey, the window has been resized. Perfect. Now this is a event listener, like this is going to be listening. So something I'd want to do with this event listener is I would want to remove it if this component is unmounted. So in my use effect, you know, if this component is unmounted, let's remove that listener, right? This component is really listening for the size, but if it's not on the page or it gets unmounted, I actually want like, I need to remove this listener. It's like an efficiency thing. So what I can do is I can return this function. The return function I can run when it's unmounted. And so this is where I could do something like window dot remove event listener resize. So I can remove that event listener. So if I were to go to like my app.js and throw my window size in the toggler, and let's just do some console.logs here as well. Console.log, removing resize listener. And then here I can do my adding. I'm just going to want to do this once, and that's why I'm doing this as a dependence, like empty dependency array. I just want to do this on mount, and I just want to add this once. And then when I unmount this component, I want to remove this listener. So it might not like that. Did it break? Okay, so we're adding the resize listener. We do that once, and then it's on there. So now when I resize my window, I'm getting that log. Hey, we're resizing. That's cool because that component's on here now. But when I remove it, I'm getting an error. It's removing the resize listener. It's failing. It wants me to have a second argument right here. Does it want a function right here? It might want me to throw it a function. So I can add it. I can add that resize listener and then I can remove it. And that's nice because that should not be there. If I remove it, it should not be resizing that. So I might need to go like investigate. Why is that not removing that? Okay, so right now I'm going to say that's a bug, but want to remove this listener. Right, does it? I might need to, I wonder if it needs to like match this function. I might need to like throw this into a function. Okay, so that's re-listened. That's removed. Nope. Let's do this const resize. So I'm gonna do a resize callback. I think I might actually need to like store this to a function. So I'm actually going to store this function to a variable, pass it there. Because what's happening is I'm not actually removing this listener, it's still running it. Okay, so let's refresh. Let's update it. We add it. I remove it. It's still there. All right. I'm going to need to like look at that, but do you at least see what I'm trying to do? When I remove this component, you know, it should not be saying window resized. It should not be logging that because that event listener should be removed. So I need to like figure out what I'm doing wrong because I'm doing something wrong here. But the idea is there, like, this is why we might want to run a function on unmount because we want to like remove a listener. I wonder if I make this like just a normal, I'm going to try one more thing. It's not like an arrow function. Okay, so I refresh, it's there. I remove it. Aha. Okay, now it's working the way I want it to. I update it, it's there. So when it's there and I resize, I'm getting that log. Perfect. And then when I update it, when I untoggle it, it's not there. So when I resize my function, it's not calling, that event listener has been removed. So perfect. So I actually needed to, that was a difference between the arrow function. That's like another kind of one-off difference. Like, so I don't want to go into that. That's a little more detailed, but I got it working. But does that high levels make sense where I can add something, like I can add this listener when my component mounts, and then I can remove that listener when my component unmounts. So there's like an actual use case for, you know, other than like an Axios call of wanting to do something when something mounts and wanting to do something when your component unmounts. Sweet. All right, so now now that we have that, let's go in and let's grab the changes. So what I want to do here, and let's just also just do a log right here. There's actually this window object that JavaScript defines for us. So let's refresh. So here's my window object, and this is going to have things like width and height on it. So I'm going to go ahead and just grab those, just kind of show you how to do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set width, or let's do my set window size to be window size, or sorry, I'm going to do it as an object. So I have my width. That's going to be equal to this window. I'm going to look at my window and I'm going to say get the inner width, and see VS Code knows about that. You can get the height window. Window has this property called inner height on it. And I'm just going to divide this by 2 just so it doesn't, so it's only taking up half of the height and width. And let's just use this also for our initial state. I believe that should work as well. Or actually, this is I don't need to do that right now. I'm just going to do this. I'm going to set this to 0 and 0. Because what's going to happen, let's just do this right here in my use effect. So my use effect, I can just set it, set the window size to what it is, and then I'll add the listener. Okay. So now when I refresh, my app is, that window is going to be half of the size. And if I reset it, it's using that event listener to determine the size. And I could show that right here. I could say do a paragraph and just JSON.stringify. This state. And it's really just going to be half of the height and half of the width because I'm doing it divided by 2. And then if I toggle that, that event listener is going to go away. If I add it back on, it's going to grab it. Pretty cool though, right? Well, I don't know if you think that's cool, but let's say I want to do this again, and maybe I don't want to divide it by 2, or I just want to get my window height and window width. This was maybe not super easy. This took me some time, and I had this little issue with this callback not getting removed because I did it as keep on doing it as an anonymous function, and I needed to make it an actual function. So what I want to do now is I want to make this whole thing of getting the window size reusable. And one way I can do that is with a hook. I can write my own hook. I'm going to call this useWindowSize. Sure, that sounds like a good name. So I'm creating my own hook. I'm going to call it useWindowSize. So I'm going to follow that rule of starting my hook with the use keyword. So what did I really do here? I'm going to need these things. I'm just going to kind of copy and paste some of the stuff I did. I need my use state and use effect. Probably want these 2 functions. I might want, and then I'm going to wrap this all in a function called use, because this is just going to be a function, use window size. There we go. And then I'm going to export default, use window size. So for now, I'm just having some window size and this setter, and I have this, I'm going to get rid of these logs. So I'm going to have this resize callback where I just setting this state. Going back to see what other parts I could reuse. I want this use effect. I'm going to plop this use effect in here. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of these logs. Now, something I'm not going to do here, because I want this to be a little more reusable, I'm not going to divide this by 2 here. I'm just going to give them back the width and height of the window. So this is where, like, I think one thing that can kind of get a little confusing about hooks is this is just a function. I'm kind of maintaining some of this, like this logic in the function of setting up my use effect, setting up the listener, and removing the listener. But I need to, ultimately, I'm going to probably want to like have this function return something. What I'm going to have this return is the window size. So I have a function called useWindowSize that has this state. It has a way to set the state, and it's when it's used, it's going to have this use effect. So it's going to run on, like when this is used, it's going to run on mount and it's going to run on unmount. Maybe I should have left these consoles in here, console.log. Let's just do this use window size use effect called. Just have that one in there. Or let's just say it like this, use effect in use window size called. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just do a new file, call this window, demo.js. Just for sake of time, I'm going to copy this window size inside of here. And I'm going to remove all of this code. What did I call it? I called it window demo. Man, I really just, because what I want this window size to have, I want this component. Like, I just want a quick way to grab the window size. I don't want to worry about, adding an event listener on when it mounts and removing it when it unmounts. And I'm actually going to get rid of these divided by 2. I want this, I can do that in a different component. All of the functionality like that gets the window sizes in this hook. So now if I want to, like in some other component, I want to get my window size. Let's do this. Let's just say const window size equals use window size. Isn't my use window size a hook that returns that use window size?
Yeah, isn't it?
So, and it has, and in that hook, that window size is an object that has width and height, and that's being maintained with the event listener. So now in the second window demo component, yeah, maybe here, well, maybe here, like I want to like divide this by 3 for that border. And this one can be like red. Let's just even to be more, let's do by 4. Okay, so now I go to my app.js. So let's grab the window demo. Boom. Now see, this one just has the actual width and height of the whole screen. It's not divided by 2, but I'm dividing the actual styling by 4, so it's a fourth. And there we go. It works the same. But man, so that once again, this maybe took a little time to write,
But now you can reuse it.
but now I can reuse it. And so it's double benefit. It's like, let's look at just these 2 components. Like these components are really doing the same thing. You know, they're, or like in a theory, I want them to do the same thing. I want them to be like adjustable when I resize the screen. Like the width and height's adjustable. And I want, like, I can now grab the width and height. So they're doing the same thing, but yeah, by creating this hook, first of all, this one becomes just so much more readable, right? It's like all of that, like when I'm just looking at this component, it's like, oh my God, that's beautiful. Just one line of code, it's very readable. And then like this one, I'm like, have to go through all this use effect crap and the state and this, you know, second function. And then, yeah, like now that I've thrown this in its own hook, it's reusable. So I could just go to like my app. You know, if I need window size in my app, how hard is that? Use window size. So maybe I want to do stuff, you know, inside my app with how big the window is. And it's also listening to like the changes. So
It's alive.
I mean, this is like, so this is where hooks become like, you can write a hook with anything, or that can do so much stuff. And, you know, hooks become a really good way to write reusable code. And that's why you'll see like libraries, like it's one of the, like, it's probably the coolest thing about hooks is now all of like the third-party libraries are writing their own hooks. And they're like, they're making things so much easier to do than the way before we had hooks. So like there's things in like React Router where it's like, oh, you can just use a hook right here. Oh, that's so cool. Like before you had to use a hook, you had to do like wrap this whole thing in a thing. So hooks have like really made things a lot easier to use. And part of it is because now all these component libraries and third-party libraries are writing their own hooks. And we ourselves can write our own hooks. So we'll do some more examples, you know, throughout the course of writing some hooks, but hopefully I think this one, the useWindowSize, is like a just kind of hopefully tied a whole bunch of things together, like our lifecycle methods and, you know, when we are creating our like hooks, we can use the React hooks inside of our hooks. We just need to follow those rules of like, I forget where I put them, you know, you can only use them in functional components or in functional components, or we can also just use them in functions. Like a functional component is just a function. Cool. Let's stop there. That's probably a lot. I didn't even get through. I wanted to talk more about React bootstrap, but this is good. I think this was like a good getting into some in-depth stuff with React. And now I think, so I threw some articles out in Slack. I would have been afraid to like Slack those out like a couple weeks ago because they're maybe too detailed. But now I think we spent some time with class components. We spent some time with, functional components and lifecycle methods and talked more about hooks. So now I think you can kind of go in and slowly start to digest this. It's kind of like you have to build up layers before you can like handle the whole thing. But cool. Any questions? I will push this up to GitHub right away and Slack out this repo, and then let's take lunch and come back at 2:10.
Yeah, sounds good.
Cool,
Sounds
thanks.
good, thank you.
Have a good one, everyone.